water gasoline, where I didn't really understand what they were doing because I wasn't in the gas business, but I can tell you that they had a water fuel where you could actually take a garden hose, and once they dumped the catalyst in the tank, you could just put the garden hose in there and you fire up the truck and it was gone. Full tank of gasoline. And
Was this the Angas one or the
it was called Anafuel.
Anafuel?
So was it actually gasoline, or was it
Yeah,
just
it was
burnable
actually
fuel?
gasoline. It smelled like gasoline and had the same color as gasoline, and this plant was producing a lot of fuel.
This is the one where they used the styrofoam?
Yes. It was a styrofoam gasoline. Of course, I never knew what the chemical composition of this was, but I can tell you this: when he gave the demonstrations, he would take just a little bit of the liquid, which was in a little bottle, and he would put some nap, what they call nap. He'd put a little bit of nap, and he'd add the catalyst to the nap, and then the rest was water. So if the jar was this, say this high, just the mixture that they put in it was about this high, and then the rest was water, and it was gasoline. He would take that, and they had a Briggs & Stratton engine there with an empty tank, and he would dump that in the tank, and he'd turn the choke on, give the thing a pull, and it'd fire right up. So when I asked, how can you run that engine in here? He says, because this gasoline takes the CO2 out of the air and pulls it down, and it falls down to the ground. So whatever the engine was doing, it was coming out clean burning. There was no oil, there was no smoke, there was no smell. So anyway, I want to backtrack a little bit here. I started asking John, what is this chart? He said, well, go over there and look. And so I went over there, and it showed where time started on our time scale. And then it went on and on and on, and it got up into somewhere in here, and 2001 was about here, or 2000. And there were little pictures underneath the chart. And I know that most people are going to find this hard to believe, but all along this chart it said who the presidents were, whether they were assassinated or not assassinated, what the year was going to bring as far as food for the world. And, when it got up into, because I was in 84, I was back here somewhere. And when I got up here, it said that the world was in a chaotic condition, basically, at 2000. And it showed war and war and war and war and more war. It also showed that it named the presidents by name. It showed Reagan, it showed Carter, it showed Reagan, it showed George Bush Sr., and after that it showed Clinton. It said the Clinton years right in here somewhere. And now how they knew I was back here, how they knew even who the presidents were was a mystery to me. And when I asked John Cejka that question, he says, we know. We know who's going to be the president. And right around in here, he said, it showed a little picture, and it showed two little towels. And it showed them on fire. And I never put two and two together because I was never allowed, while I was at the Cejka lab, to take a photograph of this. But it showed war. It showed war from here on all the way to the end. And it said that time, it ended here for us. And if you take this scale, if this is 84. And you just look at this from here to here, this must be 2036 or 2034 or something. But it said it ended there, and it ended in disaster. There's nothing went on past that. And I never really paid attention to after this, but I thought it kind of funny when it said, you know, here's Reagan, and then Bush was going to be the next president. And I said, how do you know that? I kept saying that to him, and he says, we know who all the presidents are going to be from here on out. And at that point in time, he says, well, just take all the time you want and look at the chart. He said, but that's all I'm going to answer. And that's all he did answer. He wouldn't go any further than that.